What's up, guys? It's TechnoViking23 coming to you today with a little bit of commentary about what we got to see at E3 from Mass Effect Andromeda. We did finally get to see sort of a new updated trailer for the game, and that's kind of what I wanted to talk about today. Plus give my other thoughts on the games. It's been kind of a few months since we've really heard any news regarding BioWare's latest Mass Effect title. Now I'm going to be playing the trailer here in the background. Obviously, you have the first teaser trailer we got, and then the second one will come right after it. If you guys didn't get a chance to see the trailer, I'll link for it down below in the description. But it basically showed some interesting visuals. It showed a few nice things. A little bit of gameplay, but not really, and it showed them working on the game. It did show our protagonist, who has been confirmed to be someone called Ryder. Now, a lot of people are saying he or she may not be an N7 because of some of the armor pictures we've been seeing in the trailer, whereas one character appears to be wearing N7 armor. One character appears to be wearing this other armor with some different markings on it that's like white and blue versus the black N7 armor we saw in the first trailer. I wouldn't put too much stock in that. I don't think it's really a big deal either way, but I go back to the original Mass Effect games where we were in N7, and quite honestly, we didn't wear N7 armor for that long in the games. When you found better armor right away, usually that replaced your N7 armor. But anyways, it was nice to see a little bit more visually tempting stuff from BioWare. We did get a look at the new ship we're going to be using, the Tempest, which can land on the planets versus how the Normandy used to drop the Mako off. And the Tempest looks like kind of a cross between the Normandy and a larger ship. It's very, very interesting looking. I like the design of it. I think it's neat how they showed where it lands on a planet in part of the trailer, and you drop the Mako off and go driving away from it. The new Mako, I think, looks pretty cool. I'm kind of excited to get back to that exploration aspect of the Mass Effect universe. The trailer did show us some pretty cool looking environments. We did get to see some aliens flying around, and it looks almost a little bit like they're having some kind of elements of the Dragon Age games, where you're gonna have, like, the alien to me almost seemed like one of those dragons you fight in Dragon Age, where it's flying around the settlement. But overall, it was a very interesting trailer. It definitely looks like Mass Effect. They've got the sci-fi part of it nailed, and it was just nice to actually see some of this in design. And what the developers are saying is this is what the game will actually look like. So there was none of that disclaimer about, this is just concept footage. This is what the game supposedly is actually going to look like. Now, something kind of cool we also saw in the trailer, we got to see the Ark, which is the giant ship that we're going to be taking to the Andromeda Galaxy. And there was actually more than one, so that can lead to a lot of theories. Maybe there's going to be more than one group of explorers out there. That could also lead to some of what we saw in the trailers with the one guy in the darker armor, the one guy in the lighter armor. Maybe there's two different Ark teams, and things happen and they go up against each other, or maybe only one Ark team makes it, and the multiple Arks is just kind of, background storyline. So, very cool stuff. Glad we got to see something. I was a little disappointed we didn't get to see any gameplay, but BioWare is usually pretty, holds their stuff pretty close to the vest most of the time. So, not surprising. I do hope they show us a little bit more in the fall as we get closer to the game's release, which is hopefully going to come out sometime in early 2017. I'm definitely looking forward to Mass Effect Andromeda. Still a little skeptical about a few things with the game. I really hope they don't go for a more Dragon Age Inquisition feel to it, which from some of their comments it sort of seems like they may be going that way, especially with the open world exploration, which was enjoyable in Dragon Age for a while, but a lot of the zones were so empty, and after you went through them once or twice, all the enemies were gone and there was really nothing to do, so the open world felt very empty. I hope that's not something that happens with this game. BioWare's had a very interesting year with Mass Effect Andromeda. They've had a lot of staff leave the game, especially higher up developers. One of them went to go work at Bungie, of all places. They've had a lot of story writers and other people walk out of the project, whether that was because their part of it was finished or they were just frustrated. It was very interesting for this company this year, and they actually talked about some of that in an article IGN did the other day, where they were talking about how they had a lot of staff tension within this game. So it's going to be interesting, like I said, to see what finally does come out. I'm definitely looking forward to Mass Effect Andromeda. It's a game I've been anticipating for a long time as a huge fan of the Mass Effect series in general. So, it's just a very exciting time. I wasn't really too interested in the other games at E3 besides Horizon Zero Dawn, which I may have a separate video on later on. But mainly I just wanted to see what they were going to reveal to us about Andromeda, and it was pretty good. Like I said, it definitely feels like a Mass Effect game. We got to see all the races. There was a Krogan, there was an Asari, we saw a Solarian, and believe there was also a Quarian in the trailer at one point. I'd have to go back and look at it again, but I'm pretty sure I saw one. I don't remember seeing any Turians, though, so that was kind of interesting. There's this big, giant space monster that comes chasing after us. That kind of reminded me of a Yogg from the Shadow Broker DLC, and we also fought one of those in Mass Effect 3. So I'm wondering if they're going to populate this new Andromeda galaxy with similar enemies to what we've already faced. I hope that's not the case. I would like to see some newer alien designs and some newer things. I really hope there's no mention of or no appearance of anything like the Protheans or the Reapers, because that's kind of back in the old trilogy. And from what BioWare has been saying, they are distancing this game quite a bit from the old trilogy. There's really not going to be anything that has to do with Shepard, obviously. And the game, they're saying, is set several hundred years past Mass Effect 3, from what I've been reading. So that's a very interesting statement on its own. Now, personally, I think it's a huge mistake if BioWare makes this game and they don't draw any connection at all with the original trilogy. I think it would be ignoring a lot of history. I think there's some very easy ways they could weave it together. And I'm hoping that this whole, 300 years or whatever in the future means that's the travel time that it takes to get to Andromeda, and that the ARC mission actually left sometime during the events of Mass Effect, the original trilogy. I think that'd be a very easy way to tie it together to pay homage to the original series without having the original series have too much of an impact on this new game. They already have come out and said nothing that you did in any of the prior games is going to influence this game at all. That would just probably be way too difficult for them to try to compile everybody's decisions into affecting this new game, which is only going to be on the current gen console. So that's something no one's going to have to worry about. But yeah, I really hope they do find some way to sort of, bring the games together without having the original trilogy have too much of an impact on this game. And one of those, I think, is that leaked ARC theory we got to see. It was about a year ago, where they were basically talking about how the ARC mission, it was something that the humans found on Mars in the Prothean archives that they hid from the other species while they tried to work on themselves, and then eventually it became too difficult, so they had to bring in the Solarians and the Asari to help assist with it. And basically what they found was this gateway to the Andromeda galaxy. They were able to create the ARC ships, and they put that in place as sort of a contingency plan for the Reapers. If Commander Shepard couldn't defeat the Reapers, then they would launch this ARC mission and send part of, all the species to this other galaxy to try to escape and establish a new civilization. There's even a cutscene in Mass Effect 3 where after you fail on Thesio and Kai Lang escapes with the Prothean VI, and you think everything's doomed and the Reapers are going to win in the last little act of Mass Effect 3, there's a part where you're talking to the Asari counselor, and she does say, we have to put our plan in motion for the continuation of the species of the galaxy. So I think they laid some hints. Whether or not they were working on Andromeda at that point in time, I don't know. But there were definitely some hints to a backup plan, a contingency plan. And I really think that would be an interesting way for them to tie the games together, like I said, without having too much of an influence from the original trilogy. So it'd be kind of neat to see those little subtle callbacks to the original games, because I do love the original Mass Effect games. Regardless, I know a lot of people. It's funny, I'm reading the comments on a lot of these Andromeda articles, and there's so many people that are just still so bitter and hateful about the ending to Mass Effect 3, which I understand from a point of view, but it's just, I had such an enjoyable time playing Mass Effect through Mass Effect 3. I've spent so many hundreds of hours in these games. I recently just finished my 6th playthrough of the original Mass Effect, and I'm going through Mass Effect 2 again right now. And it's just such an amazing time for me to play through these games that, I understand the ending wasn't the best, and quite honestly, by the time I got around to playing Mass Effect 3, they had already put out the extended cut DLC, so I got a little bit of a better ending than what was there originally. I have seen the original ones, and they were pretty bad, but at the same time, I'm not going to let the last 15 minutes of a 300 or 400 hour journey ruin it for me. I understand the people who feel that way, who feel like it was just completely ruined the whole series for them, and that's okay. I understand the criticism about it invalidating all the choices, but I've had just such an enjoyable time playing through these games over and over again. I'm not going to let that sort of take over and change my mind. I love all 3 Mass Effect games that are out. The first 2 a little bit more than the third, but I just love this series overall, and I'm really happy we're getting another edition. I really hope they can deliver on it. And, I really hope, like, they've been talking a lot about the exploration aspect. I hope they do go back to that. I've also seen a lot of people, when that's mentioned, are talking a lot of trash about the first Mass Effect game, about how antiquated it was and how the Mako controls were terrible. And I'm like, people, you're taking a game from like 2007 almost 10 years ago and trying to like hold it to standards of gameplay today, which I think is kind of funny. But for the time it came out, Mass Effect was very interesting. And even now, there's still something about the Mako driving around on planets, driving up mountains, you know, using the big cannon that just, it's very enjoyable. And I hope they do give it a crisper control for today's games, and I hope they add that exploration aspect in. Like I said, hopefully not like Dragon Age Inquisition where you're just in these huge open empty spaces. I hope there's actually stuff to do. It would make sense in space though for the area to be more empty, because not every planet's going to be teeming with life or atmosphere. And you know, I hope they capture that original exploration feel I had in the first Mass Effect game, which quite honestly, when I played the first Mass Effect, I didn't really concentrate much on the story at first. I just enjoyed flying around to the different planets and jumping down in the Mako and driving around and checking things out. And maybe there's a Thresher Maw here, or maybe we'll find a little settlement here. And then there was the whole thing about just reading the planet descriptions. You know, I thought it was really cool. BioWare just went through and they gave this universe so much life, because they gave every single planet you could go to, even if you couldn't land on it, you had a little dossier you could read about, you know, what its chemical makeup was, what kind of atmosphere it had, how many people had colonized it, what kind of minerals there were. You know, it was just really neat that they put so much time and effort into that, and I hope we see that again with Mass Effect Andromeda. Now, as for multiplayer, they have said, I believe there is going to be some type of multiplayer component to it. However, they were very clear, and they said it will not have any influence on the single-player game whatsoever, which I think is a really good idea. I love Mass Effect 3 multiplayer. I'm still playing it today, almost 4 years later since the game's come out. It still has a really solid population on its servers. A lot of people are still playing the game. It's very enjoyable. It's got a great community around it. I love the multiplayer in this game, but at the same time, I was really miffed when I first played Mass Effect 3, and I only started off with like 50% galactic readiness, and they said, oh, you know, you have to play the multiplayer if you want to get your score up. And I know when the game first came out, you basically had to play the multiplayer if you wanted to get any of the good endings. Now, by the time I came into Mass Effect 3, all the DLCs were out. There was enough war assets within the game where if you got most of it, the first time I played through, I did like a completionist playthrough where I tried to get everything. And at that point, you will have enough war assets to beat the game just fine. But when the game first came out, you did have to play the multiplayer. But like I said, for me, the multiplayer is very enjoyable. I enjoy the co-op aspect of it. I enjoy all the different weapons, all the different classes. I think it's very well done, and it was kind of my argument for why BioWare should allow us to use an alien protagonist in the Mass Effect game in Andromeda. I would rather we got the choice to pick who we use instead of just being forced to use human. But I understand their idea of the human aspect of the story. That's all fine and good. But I really love that aspect of the Mass Effect 3 multiplayer where you can use all these different characters, all these different weapons, and the play experience is so enjoyable every time. But I didn't like, you know, I understand why people would not like it being tied to the single player, and I'm glad they're doing away with that. I think that's a great idea. That way it will, you know, won't cause any problems within the community, and it'll let people play what they want to play and just enjoy the game overall. So I hope, you know, the nice thing about Mass Effect 3 was the multiplayer was kind of an added-on surprise. It wasn't really necessary for the game, but it was a nice little bonus and some extra stuff that people got to play. But it shouldn't have been tied into the actual campaign, and I think that's a mistake they made. They learned from, and they're actually going to change that in the next game, which is great. And I hope the multiplayer in Mass Effect Andromeda is just as enjoyable as it was in Mass Effect 3, as it is in Mass Effect 3, as I'm still playing quite a bit. I'm still working on a lot of achievements and things. So, anyways, guys, I think I've rambled on long enough. Overall, though, very excited to see this new trailer and some of the new information coming out about Mass Effect Andromeda. We still have quite a ways to go with the game, though. We're looking at first quarter 2017 for it to come out. So, I don't know, guys. Let me know what you thought about it. Were you disappointed there wasn't any gameplay? I know a lot of people are complaining about that we just haven't seen much gameplay yet. And let me know what your overall thoughts were on the Mass Effect Andromeda trailer and the news coming out of E3. Let me know if you're still looking forward to this game, you know, or if you're still one of those people who was kind of let down by Mass Effect 3 and you're still waiting to see what BioWare can do. Either way, I'm excited. I can't wait to see Mass Effect Andromeda. I will most likely be getting this game and playing it quite a bit on my channel. So anyways, guys, that's going to do it for me. I hope you guys have enjoyed the video. Thanks as always for watching. Hope you're having a great day, and I'll see you again next time.